Here we are again, ready to read you 2 more chapters of The Joyful Bear. This is installment number 6, chapters 10 and 11. Chapter 10, Size. Frankie's small furry body has always contained more personality than many a full-sized being. "Hey, you didn't say I was small, did you?" Frankie complains. "I know, Frankie. You want me to say that you are a big bear, don't you?" He nods vigorously. "Okay, you're a big bear, Frankie." He hugs me with all of his warm softness. He's about 10 inches tall, but also about 10 inches wide. Compared to other bears, he is a nice big armful. Easy to hug. Frankie made it clear from the very beginning that he did not consider himself to be a small bear. His stature was not measured in inches. He was proud of himself and his place in the world, and only a big bear could do all the things that he could do. "I'm a really good hugger," says Frankie, "and I know just what to say to make people feel better, and I'm a very good listener." He beams at me. All of that is true. I beam back at him. "Scuppers is a little bear," he continues. "He doesn't mind if you call him a little bear." Scuppers is another bear, a traveling friend who has lived on a variety of sailboats. He is, indeed, a lot smaller than Frankie. He is also known for making mischief in ways that only a little bear can do. Scuppers is not much interested in hugging people. He'd rather play practical jokes and do clever things that make people laugh. He's about 6 inches tall, with jointed arms and legs, and he wears a jaunty sweater with a sailboat on the front. Sometimes he takes off his sweater and sunbathes in the nude. He's been known to dive headfirst into a canister full of jelly beans, and he once was photographed riding on the back of a Dungeness crab. He's always close at hand when there is mischief afoot, and he has nothing to say about weighty philosophical matters. The comparison between Frankie, the big bear, and Scuppers, the little bear, reminds me of a conversation with my father. He was telling me about an acquaintance, a friend of a friend whose health was failing. "She's very old," said my dad, who was 86 at the time. I pointed out that the woman in question was a year younger than Dad. "Oh, but she's an old 85, and I am a young 86. "You see," says Frankie, "what's important is not how other people see you, but how you see yourself. That's why I am a big bear. That's why your dad is a young human." Frankie is quiet for a moment. I know what's coming. "How do you see yourself, Margaret?" It's hard to answer him. Because he is my bear, I know I have to be completely truthful. There's no other way to be with a bear. "I am feeling like a very small human today, Frankie." "You think you're not good for anything, don't you?" As always, he cuts right to the truth of the matter. I start a litany of all the things that are wrong with me. I get angry with people. I am very bad at relationships. I am a lousy writer. Nothing I do in my life is worthwhile. Blah, blah, blah. "I don't believe any of those things," says Frankie. "I am your bear, and I know you better than you know yourself. For instance, you and I are writing this book together, so you must be a good writer." The problem I see is one of right speech. If Frankie practices right speech all the time, then I feel compelled to practice it with him. How can I argue with him? How can I be angry with him? I stare at my furry friend in silent frustration. "Aw, let me hug you," says my big bear, and he does. From the very beginning of our lives, we are bombarded with messages about how we should be. Our parents, our teachers, and our culture tell us how we should behave. So when I ask you, how do you see yourself? The answer will be based on how everyone else sees you, at least how you think everyone else sees you. This is like wearing a suit of clothing that others have picked out. It's not really your style, but they told you it was in fashion. After you've been wearing it for a while, you get used to it. Jack Kornfield writes, "Central to the stories we tell are the fixed beliefs we have about ourselves. Because those thoughts and assumptions are so powerful, we live out their energies over and over. How do those thoughts and assumptions hold you back from your real potential? Do you see yourself as not artistic or not worthy of love? The key to seeing yourself as you really are is to get naked spiritually and emotionally, and then figure out what really suits you. When I went through this process with Frankie, I discovered that I love to draw and paint and play the piano and sing and dance. I had not been doing those things because I was afraid of judgment. Now I do those things simply to make myself happy. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly because you tread on my dreams. William Butler Yeats. Chapter 11. Air. One of the early things I learned about my bear was that he eats air, and a lot of it. Frankie is a connoisseur of air. Some kinds of air are yummier than others, he tells me. Which ones do you like best? I ask him. Well, I like flower air and rainy day air and fresh baked bread air and jelly bean air and lemon pudding air. There's a lot of nice air in this world. He comes over and puts his nose over my coffee cup. Coffee air, yum. Are there some yucky ones too, I ask? Not right now, he says, reveling in the air above my coffee cup. I know he doesn't like farts and diesel exhaust, but who wants to think about those things when there's a good cup of coffee at hand? Sometimes when there are bad smells around, you bury your nose against my chest, I remind him. But I don't need an excuse to do that. See, he says, snuggling against me and burying his nose against my chest. Frankie says something into my chest that comes out like this. What did you say? I ask him. He looks up at me. Tell them about the cookie air. Okay, I'm getting to that, my bear. I was on an extended long-distance bicycle ride in northern Ohio when I got word that my mother was dying. I rushed to her bedside in South Carolina, arriving just 7 hours before she took her last breath. I held her hand until the end. Once she was gone, I fell apart. I had never experienced such grief. The pain was so severe I was racked with sobs. With the emotional pain came a physical pain, as if I was being torn apart from the inside by all the crying. Frankie wasn't with me at the time. He was back in Ohio, where a friend had been taking care of him while I was on the bike trip. Young but wise, bear-sitter Julie knew just what to do. She made a double batch of chocolate chip cookies, wrapped them carefully in plastic wrap, and packed them in the bottom of a large, sturdy cardboard box. Then she put Frankie on top of the cookies and shipped the box to me. Oh my gosh, what a memory, says Frankie. When he arrived and I took him out of the box, he was completely full of chocolate chip cookie air. He gave off the most heavenly aroma, that of fresh-baked homemade cookies. During those difficult times, Frankie was a non-stop hugging machine. He hugged me and anyone else in the house who needed his furry paws, and with every hug came a burst of yummy chocolate chip cookie air, infused with teddy bear love. Margaret, are you missing your mom right now? Frankie asks. Yes, I am, Frankie. It's been almost 20 years since she passed away. I thought so, he says. How about a hug? I don't smell like cookies right now, but let's pretend that I do. It is easy to take things for granted when they are right under your nose like air. But what is the one thing we all have in common as humans? We all need to breathe. When I first learned to meditate, I was told to pay attention to my breathing, and if any thoughts came into my head, to gently acknowledge them and send them on their way. Being a word person, the easiest way to do this was to think the words, breathe in, breathe out, over and over. I had heard of mantras, but didn't know I was using one. I thought mantras had to be serious phrases spoken in ancient languages. Over time, I learned to do it without the words. As I learned to focus on my breath like a faithful friend, I was taking my first steps toward mindfulness. Mindfulness means to pay attention, to witness what is happening in the present moment in your body, mind, and environment without judging or criticizing. The practice goes back thousands of years, but anyone can do it anytime. Thich Nhat Hanh says it brings happiness because when you are aware of your in-breath, you touch the miracle of being alive. When you are stressed or overwhelmed or fearful, stop and notice your breathing, that delicious air right under your nose. It is a simple practice that you can do anywhere, and it brings a peaceful, easy feeling. Meditation is not a search for something. Rather, it is a journey to discover what is here. Ruth Dennison. Thank you for watching. I hope we'll see you tomorrow.